Hello, my name is Tina Tate, and I am the author of The Art of Retirement, Opening the Next Door. We are here today on the podcast, Retire Purposefully, and I have a very, very special guest with me today. His name is Bob Thayer. Bob and I have been friends since his wife and I were college roommates. That's over 40 years now, right, Bob?
Yeah, a long time.
That's fun. And he is in Georgia, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his journey in repurposement. But right now, Bob, I'd just like you to tell us a little bit about your family and your career. Yeah, so just, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, as you mentioned, we met because of my wife,
Mhm.
and that was right after college. Uh, wow, in Iowa we met, I guess. That's when Janice and I met, and we have three kids. We moved to the Atlanta area because all of our kids ended up in Atlanta, and we're not moving back to Ohio. So we decided to move down here while I was still working. I was working for a great company, great boss, um, late 50s at the time, really looking forward to running out my career with that company and being near my kids and grandkids. So that's the fun part. We live 10 minutes from three granddaughters,
What a
and
blessing.
the other two kids live in the city and are unattached.
Okay.
So they
That's
think we live in Tennessee, but it's really only 45 minutes from downtown Atlanta without traffic.
true.
Um, so
And tell us about your career now.
so I've been selling in the diagnostic imaging world for over 30 years. What that means is X-ray, ultrasound, CAT scanners, MRI, nuclear systems, linear accelerators, all of those devices used to diagnose disease. And so I've worked for all the major manufacturers, the really big boys, and the company I referenced earlier was a startup um, that a friend of mine ran, and he needed a VP of sales, and he hired me, and we had a great run. But the new products that they were developing took longer to develop, and the products that they were replacing became obsolete. So we ran out of money, and at 62, he had to let me go. And I thought this was the company that I was gonna, ride my career out,
Sure.
use all my experience in sales and leadership from the big boys to the small company, and it was going to be a great little sunset.
Mhm.
But that didn't work, and I found a job. We had moved to Atlanta already, and I had found a job with the only major company I hadn't worked for. And I must have really needed a job because I had avoided that company like the plague because they have a history of reorganizing and good people losing their job. And that happened to me 1 month before my 65th birthday.
Wow. Wow.
And didn't think that was going to happen. My original plan was to work till 70 to get that next bump in Social Security and whatnot. I still am young acting, had a lot of gas left in the tank. So I spent several months looking for another job. And twice I got inside what I would call the 5 yard line, to use a football analogy. And having a career in sales, I am very adept at when to close, how to make it a natural part of the relationship. And twice I was told I had these jobs, and all we're waiting on is the offer letter or legal or just some minor detail to be taken care of. And both times those details didn't take place. So I'm 3 to 4 months into looking for a job, having been told no twice now. And I get a call from a guy who said, "Thayer, you ever thought of working for yourself?"
There you go.
And I said, yeah, but when I did, I had three kids in college and a mortgage and all this stuff. And I said, I can't afford to work for myself. So What are you thinking? And
Mhm.
he planted a seed. I didn't want to sell what he had to offer, but it planted a seed. So I took a step back, started praying about it. Okay, God, you've opened this door. What do you want me to do with it?
That's right.
And it became very clear I needed to do something, but I didn't know what. So I took some time to look at if I were to start my own, and it would be sales consulting. I'm not going to make anything, I'm not a manufacturer. I'm going to either consult in leadership or sales, to building a sales team, leading a sales team, or actually just selling.
Mhm.
So I had three other people that I've known over the years that had always wanted me to help them in sales, and they were all products that were related to my area of expertise.
Imaging.
And so in imaging, in MRIs, in servicing MRIs or X-ray gear, whatever. And so I did. I found three companies that all agreed to a sales consulting relationship, and it was straight commission. No salary, no base, no benefits, no whatever. And it sounded like a good idea to me, but my ironclad go-to consultant is Janice.
Wow.
Happy wife, happy life, right? And Janice has always, she's been a stay-at-home mom since our first child was born. And so she's always managed the books. I couldn't even tell you how much is in our checkbook or savings or whatever. She knows all those details. And when she had peace about me not working for somebody else with the comfort of a base salary and insurance and other benefits, when she had peace that going out on your own was what I wanted to do, then I knew that that was where God was leading me. Because that is one of the ways He guides us. Is if you have pray, if you ask Him for advice and you have peace, then you take this step of obedience and go do it.
That's
So
right.
I did. So I launched a company, really creative name, BT Imaging Solutions.
There you go. That's
And that's
great.
what I do. I have three companies now that I've been helping for 3 years. And I started it as a way to financially get me to that original goal of 70 and a half, to
Right.
work that long and, save as much as we could to add to the retirement account and all that good stuff. But after a few months, God showed me that that's how he hooked me.
Mhm.
But what he really wanted me to do was to use it as an evangelistic opportunity.
There you
So I've made very little money doing what I'm doing,
go.
but I've been ministering to people in relationships. One company's in Hong Kong, one company's in Italy, one company is in Phoenix, Arizona. And those are all places I would have never have gone to on my own. I would never have sought people out to minister in whatever way God is using me.
Mhm.
Um, the Hong Kong, because of the British rule, they have an understanding of Christianity, but very few of them are practicing Christians. The Italian grew up in the epicenter of the papal system and had the owner of that company wants to have nothing to do with anybody who says they're religious because he experienced all the negatives from the failed papal system.
Okay.
And so, and then my friends in Arizona have a special needs child. They're believers, but they just need support and love because they're in their 50s and they still have an adult child living at home. So that's a real challenge. So
Right.
God has used me to build relationships in these companies with these people. And at times I have the opportunity to, just be an ear to listen to, or
Hey, that's
um,
neat.
like with my Italian friend, he's now open to hearing about things of God. And the CEO of the Hong Kong company is, it's you have to be really patient and you have to listen to the Holy Spirit when to speak and when to shut up.
That's
But I thought I was doing it to make some money, and God says, "No, I'll take care of that.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
do this other stuff for me." So that's what it's turned into,
Yeah.
is a ministry opportunity.
Yes, that's wonderful. Now, one thing at the end of your emails, you have a special verse. And do you use that email to these other companies as well? John?
Yes, I have that in my signature. That's I decided to use my personal email for my business. I'm kind of wishing I would have kept them separate.
Oh,
But like with my Hong Kong, all three companies have offered to give me their email address. But then I would have four emails to manage, and I said, "Oh my gosh, no, 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 no." So I learned much later I could have kept my Gmail account, but had a different email address
mhm.
go to the same inbox. I
Okay.
didn't realize that.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
just used my personal email for my business. And the Hong Kong company, I did take their email address, and I have the same verse in my email address at the Hong Kong company as
Be-
well.
Because that's evangelistic too, you know, they could read that. I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly.
Yeah,
And
I've for the longest time been around people that have what they call life verses, and
mhm,
I've never really had one until this post-retirement, whatever phase I'm in.
I noticed that.
Um,
That's good.
repurposing phase that I'm in. And uh, I wish I'd have had that verse years and years and years ago because so many people don't want to have a thing to do with Christians or with church. And I can't blame them, right? We've all encountered situations that we don't want to be a part of ever again.
Yeah.
But what what Jesus says in that verse is, I came to give you life and life more abundantly. Who
Right.
doesn't want that?
Exactly.
So take
Open
the
door.
focus off the bad experience and
Mhm.
focus them on a God that loves them, that wants nothing but the best for them. And then maybe you'll have an opportunity to talk about it more and help them have a new view of who Jesus really is.
That's
So
interesting.
that's why and it was actually somebody that I was recruiting
Mhm.
uh, a couple of years ago that had a verse in her email address and was just very politely but very forward in saying, I serve Jesus, and you either like me, you're either going to hire me for that or not. I don't care. And so I kind of liked her boldness, and I tried to taper it down just a bit, and that's what prompted me to put a verse in my email addresses. Is it struck a chord with me when I saw that, and I'm hoping it does the same for other people.
Oh, absolutely. So now, in your job now, do you have time for other things like travel and grandchildren?
Yeah, so the fun part is, I historically for almost 40 years worked 60 hours a week plus. And the great thing was in sales, you didn't go to an office, and as long as you produce, nobody cares how long or how short you work.
Mhm.
Well, I'm a workaholic, so I work long. Now I don't set an alarm.
Nice.
I take time to digest and spend time with Jesus every day.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that has changed after about 3 months of this new business, new lifestyle, whatever. Janice says to me, "You know, I love you." And at that point, we'd been married 40, 41 years. And I said, "Oh my gosh, of course, that's so obvious." She goes, "Well, now I even like you." Because I'm a very disciplined person. I was trained as an engineer, very methodical, very disciplined, and I was that way in my approach to Jesus. I could check the box that I had done my devotional and I had been through master's level Bible study programs and all this kind of stuff, but how was I living? Was I drawing people to Jesus? No, I was alienating them because I was so dogmatic in my approach. And it took getting drugged through the knot hole backwards at 60, a month before my 65th birthday, being let go, to go, wait a minute, there's a different approach and experiencing Jesus. If you don't do that, then I don't want to say you're wasting your time because there's no time spent in the Word of God that is a waste, but you're not really getting what God intends out of it. And it's just like, you know, it's just like walking. I can be in the living room watching a football game, and I'm in the room with Janice, but am I enjoying her company and presence? No, I'm doing something else. And unfortunately, my discipline had created that same type of thing. Was I was very disciplined about saying, well, I spent my time in the Bible today. Well, was I being more patient, more loving, more generous, more kind? Eh, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
not as much as I should could have been.
And you're
So
not
so yeah,
alone in that. I found even myself, that's one of the benefits of retirement is that I could spend as much time as I want. I don't have to look at the clock and say, oh, I only have a half
yeah,
an hour or
yeah.
whatever. I can truly experience him. So that's
Yeah.
great. Thank you
So,
for bringing that
so,
up.
on-
It
so
speaks.
on a daily basis, I don't set an alarm. I make sure I prioritize time with Jesus over anything else. And sometimes I don't get to work stuff until 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Sometimes it's 6 in the morning because when I'm dealing with Hong Kong and time zone changes, you have to give and take and be flexible in that regard, but I'm not regimented to a schedule. And then Janice and I have a bucket list of places we want to retire or want to visit.
Yeah,
So we've got that list, and we want to get a lot of traveling done before we're 70
right.
because you just don't know what your health is going to be like after that point.
Yeah,
So we've been fortunate to do a lot of traveling lately. And with the Hong Kong company, I've got to go to conferences in Singapore, in Hong Kong, uh, many cities in the States. And half the time Janice would go with me, half the time she wouldn't. And
yeah,
so, and then, people like you and Chris we travel with. And so,
that's
yeah, we've been able to travel. We live 8 minutes from the grandkids, so we get to babysit them once a week, and then other times
one
when they need us. And so,
there. Mm,
yeah, it's a much, I think this is the pace that God intended us to be while we were working.
mhm.
But for some reason, we feel like we just have to work, 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 and go, go, go.
No,
And
like,
I think God's sitting on the sidelines saying, you could have lived your whole life this way instead of nose to the grindstone
right,
and
right,
go,
right.
go, go.
Yeah. Well, I have one more question for you. What advice would you want to give to other professionals who maybe feel they're kind of ready for retirement or repurposement, but they don't know what to do? They have a hunger for something. Maybe they want to start their own company. What would you tell them?
First, I would say, t- ask God,
Yeah.
take time in prayer and say, it, my life is yours. What do you want me to do with it?
Mhm.
And then have the patience to sit back and wait and see what opportunities present themselves.
Yeah.
And one of those for me, I had casually volunteered at Habitat for Humanity over the years, but sometimes it was only once a month. Sometimes I wouldn't even go for a month. And now I go almost every week. And we just finished up a house a couple of weeks ago, and I went 3 times one week,
Oh,
because we had a punch list of things that had to get done. The due date to give the house to the new owners was approaching, and stuff needed to get done.
mhm.
So I decided to do that more than I did my work stuff.
Yes. More
And
time for you.
thankfully, I had the flexibility to do that. So ask God what He wants you to do with His life, and He'll present the opportunities to you. And then it's up to you to have the boldness to be obedient to what comes your way.
Right.
So, nothing's wasted in God's economy. So just ask Him how He wants you to steward what you've got and see what lands in your lap.
I love that. That's a beautiful way to end. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to say before we close?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to do this. This is nothing like what I thought it was going to be.
Oh,
Um, and for 25 years, I only worked for 2 companies. And the
mm,
last 10 of my working life has just been one closed door after another, which you don't like in your late 50s and 60s. You just never think it would go that way. And as much as the work hasn't gone to plan, um, if I take a step back and just look at where God has brought me,
yes.
who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? We live in such a way that the rest of the world would admire or want to have what we have.
Mm,
And I don't want to take any of that for granted. And
Yeah,
I want the spiritual side to be what I really value, and all this other junk will come, God will take care of that stuff.
he does. He
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, blessings to you on your new adventure and just your life. And I'm just so blessed that I have you and Janice in my life. So thank
Yeah.
you for sharing.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking.
Okay, we'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye now.
Bye bye.